Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. See people are still joining, so we will give everyone just a second to settle in, get comfortable in their chairs from wherever you are. If you want, feel free to share where you're currently working from. Is it the office, from home, or maybe even the country? And feel free, you can use the chat at all times to socialize, get to know the other participants. And just let me put on some slight background music while we're still waiting. Hello, Eric from Brazil. Quite early for you, isn't it? Let me start one of our polls, also to get you familiar with the concept of our polls. So you should see a poll popping up in your Zoom meeting now. We will use the polls a little throughout the webinar just to see if everyone can follow along, if everyone is feeling good, if there's anything we can do to help you or slow down or be faster. I see a lot of people want to be invisible. Alex, what would you choose? What's your superpower? What would you choose?
I think of the options here, I'd go with being able to fly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're invisible, you could technically use any plane you want, or is it more about freedom?
I think it's about freedom, not being confined by the roads where I live. Yeah, get around the traffic a lot easier.
Yeah, I can see that. So you're not afraid of heights at all?
No, not heights.
Okay. Seems like you convinced all of the participants, or at least 50% of the participants,
50%.
because the votes for flying just went up. So.
Little uptake of superhuman strength and reading minds, though. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like reading minds sounds like it's super useful, but also a bit scary. I don't know if I would want to learn what others are thinking at all. Wait.
No, probably not.
I see a question in the chat. No, it's not at all an issue if you want to join a bit later. The session will be recorded. We will also start with a little bit of theory, and then the hands-on part, but it's all documented. You will receive all the tools. And if you join a little later, no worries. But also the access that you will get today for the hands-on session will be available to you for 2 days, 2 more days. So even if you decide, I'm not feeling well today, you can follow along async tomorrow or Thursday. Today is Tuesday. Okay, I'll say we start at 5 minutes after, so like the last seconds. So last chance to grab a cup of coffee, tea, water, and then I'll take it from there. Okay. It's not 5 after. Now it is. Ha, see, that is timing. Okay. Hi, everyone. Let me end the poll real quick. So we have a clear winner. Alex, congratulations. You convinced everyone that flying is probably the best thing to choose here.
Collective good choice.
Okay. before we start with introduction and all of that, let me do a little bit of the housekeeping here to give you some time if you've missed the prerequisites of today's webinar. In order to join us during the hands-on exercise, we've already sent this via email, but just to be sure that everyone received it or still has 2 minutes to do so, you need a working GitLab.com account. If you don't have one yet, or you missed that part in the invitation, just sign up. It's free, and we will give you access to the hands-on group then, so you don't need to set anything up, and we'll receive the examples. But we need your username to do that. The session will be recorded, and we will send the recording to you, as I just said. So no worries if anything happens, you need to drop or whatever, life happens. The recording will be provisioned. You can watch it afterwards, and the environments will also be available to you for 2 more days. Yes. And one thing that is important, feel free to use the Zoom chat for any socializing, or if you want to discuss something with the other attendees. But for question and answers, please use the Q&A function, which you should see in the Zoom menu. It makes it easier for us to answer the questions. They are documented, and we can keep the chat for the fun part and the question part for the official part, and to have everything documented afterwards. And yeah, so if you get stuck, run to the Q&A section, ask a question, and we will answer them happily, or take some breaks, or make sure that everyone can follow along. Okay, so without further ado, Alex, as you're the one, I'll just hand over and then we'll start introductions.
Yep. So hi everyone, I'm Alex Sweet. I'm a solutions architect here at GitLab. I've been here for a year now. And yeah, it's fantastic to be able to do this AI workshop with you today. And
Sarah, off to you.
I'll say over to Clara.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and I'm a customer success engineer at GitLab, and I'll be here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And yes, I'm Sarah. Similar to Alex, I'm part of the solution architecture team. I will take over the first part of this webinar, and then for the fun and practical part, I will hand over to Alex. And then Seraphine, you want to, yes.
Hi everyone. My name is Seraphine Young. I'm a demo architect. I make sure that the systems for these workshops are up and running. So yeah, if anything, if you can access your GitLab or don't have access to the workshop, yeah, give us a shout in the chat section and we'll be able to have a look. Thank you.
Which is also a great start, because I've seen someone asking if it works if they have an enterprise account. You don't even need an enterprise account at all. Oh, you mean like an enterprise user account? Yes, please use an account that we can invite. So a personal email address, or just something that where we are allowed to invite you to an external group, because the lab will be provisioned to an external group.
Yep. So we advise using your personal account if you have one. You can work with the enterprise account, though we've noticed that there's been some cross access issues sometimes. So if you have a personal account, we advise you use that.
Thank you. Okay. Before we come to the theory, let's start with some little preparation and get you all equipped with our lab. So the group that you will get is not part of your normal namespace. It is part of our own internal infrastructure. We provision you with a Duo Enterprise and Ultimate license within those groups. And therefore, it's important that you use the group that you will now get access to, rather than trying to set something up in your personal project. For the registration, I'll follow the instructions along as well. Please go to gitlabdemo.com, and then it should look something like it does for me on the right side. You should see the redeem invitation code. And if you click on redeem invitation code, please make sure, to copy. I'll go to this slide. It's a little bigger for you. Please make sure to either copy. I think someone can copy the code also into the chat so that it's easier for everyone following along. But you can also just type it. It's 5 small e 2 c 7 f e and 6. And the next thing that you need is your thank you, Corvinian and Alex. And the next thing that you need is your gitlab.com username. If you don't know it, what you can do is a little bigger. If you're in GitLab and you can go to your little profile picture on the left-hand side, and there you'll see the username with the little @ before the actual name. And we'll just take the last bit of that. So for me, it's smutty. And if you hit provision training environment, it might take a second, but you should see this wonderful summary screen of everything that has happened. And then if you click on this URL or the My Group, you will be forwarded to your new AI environment that we will use throughout the hands-on part. So just giving everyone like 1 or 2 seconds to do so. The link to GitLab demos in the chat, as well as the invitation code. And if you're having any issues, the link is not working or anything, please use the Q&A and make us aware of the issues you're seeing so that we can help you. Right. So now that we are equipped and fully set up, let's start with some theory. Of course, you can already play along, but let us give you an overview of what you can expect and just a little introduction of the things that we will do today. And I'll start with a little video to give you that overview of GitLab Duo.
You're a developer working on a mission-critical customer-facing app. Here's how GitLab Duo acts as your AI assistant through the whole software development lifecycle. Instead of wading through weeks of comments, GitLab Duo summarizes technical needs and infrastructure requirements, instantly generating a to-do list. And all it takes is one click for you to transform your notes into detailed issue descriptions. Now, it's time to start coding. Let's say the task in your first issue is developing a new feature, which requires adding a new method to the existing Java app. You open the web IDE and describe the task, and GitLab Duo instantly generates the method. You can focus on the core business logic, while Duo handles syntax and boilerplate code. As you work, Duo crafts contextual suggestions to fill in the gaps, speeding up the process. When a vulnerability is detected, GitLab Duo instantly provides a summary and suggests how to fix it. It even generates a merge request that resolves the vulnerability with a detailed description and the actual code. You don't need to be a Go expert to integrate a feature developed by another team written in Go, because with GitLab Duo, the context you need is at your fingertips. It provides clear code explanations for seamless integration. And if you have questions, Duo Chat is there for in-depth help. It's available platform-wide, so you can use its knowledge base to dig deeper. Merge request time. Oh, you've hit a challenge. Your pipeline build fails. What once required looking through hundreds of log lines is now solved with a click, using GitLab Duo's root cause analysis. Problem identified. Fix suggested. Problem solved. Now you're ready for code review. Select from a list of recommended reviewers based on their expertise and availability. Your tasks are complete, efficiently and successfully, thanks to GitLab Duo. It doesn't stop at coding. With automated test generation, you can catch bugs early. And with the AI Impact Dashboard, you can measure AI's impact in real time. GitLab Duo demonstrates what can be achieved when AI is incorporated throughout the software development lifecycle. Make this a reality and leverage the most comprehensive AI-driven DevSecOps platform for faster, more secure software development.
Okay, that was a little overview, but let's discuss where we're coming from, what our idea with Duo is, and why we think it's the right approach. There we go. Okay. So one thing that GitLab regularly does is we conduct a survey, our DevSecOps survey. And what we do is we try to understand what are the everyday tasks for a developer. Like, what is it? How do they spend their time? Is it coding? Is it other things? It's great for us to understand priorities in our product. And it also helped us define our idea for how AI should be incorporated into a perfect solution. And what you see here is a glimpse into the DevSecOps study that we did in 2023. You can download the results on our webpage if you're interested in all the numbers. But I wanted to highlight this finding here. And what it shows is the average day, month, you name it, of a developer. And the most important finding was that only 25% of the time is spent actually writing new code, because there are so many other things that you need to focus on. You still need to take a look at security. You need to improve your security posture. There's the planning process. You are involved in planning your features, maybe discussing the weight, priorities, feasibility. There's onboarding and all of the tasks that come for new projects, maintenance, meetings. I mean, we all spend some time in meetings at some point, and then there's testing, there's documentation, and there are so many, many, many things. And honestly, I'm even missing the merge request part here, because someone has to do the merge request. And this finding is very important because it is one of the key decisions that we considered when deciding where to focus with AI. And maybe you've seen it in the video already. Our focus is also on coding, but not only on coding. Because imagine Alex now writes faster code, and the result is not that we're overall faster, but the result is I have to do more reviews. We also have to improve our security because we're introducing more code, and we're also introducing code where we really don't know where it's coming from. So we need to double check and be sure here. And also, I've worked as a developer in the past, and the coding bit is actually the bit that I really enjoyed, and that is not the bit that I want to be fully automated. So we took a slightly different approach. We took a look at like common issues that companies face when they want to get faster, and what are normal difficulties that we see. There's triaging of security vulnerabilities, remediation of those, especially hard if you're not the one that introduced them. Then we also need to introduce security, make sure that developers are not really slowed down by that, but still making sure across the whole platform that it works for everyone. We have the planning, maybe even in another tool, although it's so important to make sure that the developer knows what the planning is about and gets that overview, and that someone is moving the tickets once the merge request is in place, and reading through those tickets because the PM has discussed it with 5 other people and the comments get out of hand, and so many, many more examples. And if you just add AI to this whole bunch of problems that are already there without really making sure you see the whole picture, it'll just end up in a huge, huge mess. So what you will see today and what we will play around with is our AI solution that is covering the whole platform. So as I said, the focus is partially, of course, also on coding because it is important. There are tasks where it's really helpful. Like, why should my favorite example is regex. I'm really good at reading regex. I can't write regex, so I have to Google anyways. Perfect for AI. So sure, it makes sense to have coding, but it makes sense to view the bigger picture and have AI through the whole platform, have it integrated into the planning process, having the ability to use the issues while you're coding, having that help when the pipeline is failing. Why Google if you can ask a model that is directly integrated for that little bit of help that you wanted to Google anyway, so you have no context switching and everything just stays in one platform. So the things we will explore today, there are a bit, but let's start with the, sorry, let me take a look real quick. I thought we'll start with, I missed the planning bit here. But honestly, let's start with the planning, because what we will start doing today, I see the thumbs up, awesome. So GitLab Duo allows you to populate issue descriptions, helping you come up with that last bit of explanation of argument that you needed, but you couldn't really point down to have the assistant there. We will show you how you can summarize issues, how you can get a hold of these ongoing lengthy discussions and get that overview. And then we will move on to the actual coding bit, and not only the coding. Of course, as I said, it's an important bit. We will show you how code suggestion and code explanation is integrated in the IDE, but also throughout the whole platform and also within the GitLab web IDE. Then one of my favorite bits, we will also explore how we can help you with AI doing merge requests, from getting the merge request summarized, populating the merge request description, because the changes are there. Why should you bother spending time explaining what it is, besides the functional things, of course, but we have the issues. So let's bring everything together in like one big solution. And we will also show you how GitLab Duo can do a whole code review for you. So the first bit of full automation, the first quality gate before someone actually spends time on the merge request. And then we will go over to test generation, so seeing how we can very fast integrate unit tests and come up with unit tests that actually fit your needs, and try and see if we can break a pipeline to repair it afterwards. But we're not the one repairing it. Duo will help us do so and understand what is happening. And if there's still some time left, we will even continue. And we will continue our tour around the whole DevSecOps workflow by also taking a look how AI can help us with security. Since the group we are using has all of these security scanners available, so SASC and DASCAN, we want to show you how AI can be used to explain vulnerabilities, to get a summary and recommendations, but also to resolve vulnerabilities if there is a solution in place that can be applied automatically so that you don't have to take the time to do so. Oh, and there's the code review bit. That was what I was referring to. So we'll show you how to automatically use Duo to help you with the code review afterwards. One thing that is quite important, probably to everyone that is working on an enterprise scale, is privacy. And we know that privacy is a huge concern, which is why we took a transparency and privacy first approach. So we are building our capabilities with IP protection completely in mind. There is the trust center that we can share the link with. None of the data that we have will be used for any training purposes, nor is there any kind of caching. So we have a zero data retention policy. So all the data will be or will get lost afterwards, and nothing will be shared. And the same applies to transparency. So we collect some metadata to show the usage of AI, but just in terms of requests, is no usernames whatsoever. So we have with adoption while limiting or making sure that everything is happening transparent and in the background. And my favorite bit, one thing that is very different compared to what you might have seen in other companies, is we are not bound to use one vendor in the background. But what we do instead is we have a dedicated team that is doing benchmarks against different AI models. And we have something called the AI abstraction layer. And the AI abstraction layer takes every request and then indicates what the use case is. So is this, do you need a code snippet? Is this a merge request? Is this a summary that you want? And then we assess which model to use in the background. And we have several models. So we work together with Anthropic, Google, some open source models, and we even have one model that is particularly trained on GitLab documentation. So if you're having a question, your pipeline is failing, or you want a recommendation for that pipeline, like what can I do better? This model will be used in the background. And the good thing with this approach is you don't have to worry about that. We will always automatically update the models, and we will make sure that different models are used for different use cases. So if you are using one of the models to generate code in the background, we will use another model to do the merge request review, because we also don't let developers do their own reviews. So why should we use the same model that just generated the code to also review it? Doesn't make sense. So that's why we use several models in the background, and you don't have to worry about that because all of that is already handled. So just a little overview of what that looks like. So what you will see today is GitLab is integrated in all popular IDs, and here Eclipse is even missing, and I think Neolim, but don't take my word on that. I see Alex nodding. He will look that up. And you will see that all of the dual features are also part of the web frontend, and all of the requests will route through this AI gateway layer, so our AI abstraction layer. And from there, we make sure that the data is handled safely. We will see if there's any additional context that is needed or that should be gathered. There's also a Git leaks integration, so we also make sure to strip out any access keys so that those don't find the way out of your code base and will never be exposed to, well, not to us because there's no caching, but just making sure that even on the transporting ways, everything is safe and secure. And once that is done and all the data is collected, we have the context, we made the decision which model to use. Only then we will forward all these information to the vendors. And when the output is generated, that is when you will receive the output. And that is also when we will delete all of the data on our end. So what will you see today? We want to show you how AI can make everyone faster and all tasks. So you will see the coding bit, but that's not the important bit. The important bit is to understand that there are many, many tasks that a lot of us don't really like, especially documentation, unit test updates, and all of those bits. And we want to show you how a thorough solution that spans the whole platform can help you automate all of those repetitive tasks and help you write faster code and be efficient at the same time. And that was a lot of talking, and hopefully you're all excited now because I'm now handing over to Alex, who are actually working with Duo.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the kind of our approach to AI there, and maybe what we do a little bit differently. What I'm going to do is share my screen now. There we go. Hopefully you can all see that. If you can't, just let me know. So we are going to do a hands-on exercise. So hopefully, following Sarah's instructions, you were all able to get access to your group, which I will just quickly go into here. So you should have access to this test group, and inside is the Tanuki Racing Duo Enterprise Workshop project. And if we go into that, there is one, or there should be one issue. And if you go into that one issue, number one, modern development with GitLab AI, this will contain all of the instructions which we are going to follow today. So I'll just give everyone just a few seconds to make sure you've all got access to that. If you've got any problems getting into that at all, just pop it into the chat and someone will point you in the right direction. I can see Alessandro struggling to get the lab environment link. If you just follow Serafina link GitLab demo.com above, and then you use the code linked above that to gain access. And Sarah's just shared it again. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'll just scroll down. So as Sarah said, the goal of this workshop is to look into all of the features and capabilities that have been developed as part of GitLab Duo, not just code suggestions. And although code suggestions are important, it's often the bit which people enjoy most about developing. So we put a big emphasis on trying to help everyone across the entire software development lifecycle, not just developers and their coding tasks. Just as a quick note, some of these features are in the experimental phase. You can follow that link to see exactly what that means. Essentially, they may be prone to outages as they're being actively developed. And you can look in the docs. We're very transparent about which feature is at what maturity level at any given time. Now, what I would suggest here, this issue is going to provide all of the hands-on instructions for our workshop, is to assign yourself to this. And then keep this issue open in a separate tab as we go through, just so you can refer back to it. To assign yourself to the issue, if you just expand the sidebar on the right-hand side, at the moment there should be 0 assignees. If you just click assign yourself, then that should be done. And we can just collapse that again so it's out of the way. Again, anyone needs any help at any point, if you just drop a comment in the chat and we can sort you out. So throughout the workshop, we are going to be utilizing GitLab Duo Chat to give us some AI-generated support. And hopefully what you should see in the top right corner here is this GitLab Duo Chat icon, this button. If you click on it, it will open a chat window, which has pulled in my history from my test before. What you should see is more like this. And what you'll have here are a few predefined questions. And what I'd like everyone to do is just to kind of either ask your own question or just try one of these predefined questions. So for example, how do I clone a repository? And as Sarah was explaining before, this request is going to be directed to the most appropriate large language model to give us the correct or the most correct answer possible. So it's given us the information about how we might clone a repository in GitLab. It's given us some Git commands which we can copy to our clipboard, and it's a response there. Now, we can use what we call slash commands just to interact with Duo Chat to speed it up a little bit. If I do /reset, what that has done there is just cleared the context, so I can kind of start again. So I'll just give everyone just 30 seconds very quickly to have a go, just interact with Duo Chat, ask your own question, use one of the predefined ones, and then we'll have a bit of a look into exactly what we can use Duo Chat for. Right, so what we can also use Duo Chat for is to assist with visual diagrams. So I'm just going to navigate to this hyperlinked epic here. I'm just going to copy this prompt beforehand. So I just go to that one in a new tab. We can open GitLab Duo Chat again just by clicking on the right-hand side. What we've got here is an epic. There's quite a few child items of this, some milestones, and it might be that I want to visualize this in a Gantt chart or a Gantt diagram. I can ask Duo Chat to do that for me. So I just pasted in my prompt from my instructions. Again, Duo is going to route my request to the most appropriate large language model, and it is going to create some, I think, mermaid UML. There we go, which will create this Gantt chart for me. Just as a side note, you can change the size of this if you're struggling to read it at any point, so you can resize the chat window. So it's generated that for us, so we can utilize it to create these diagrams. I am going to get rid of that window now and go back to my instructions. So just back to where I started. Now, I'm just going to clear everything I've done so far. Now, what you may have noticed at points during that, whenever you got a response, is there was a link at the bottom which you could follow to give feedback on your answer. It will open a form which will be sent straight to the GitLab team, and it is important if you think the answer was not as good as it could have been, that feedback is really important for them. Something else we can just have a quick look at here, enabling the AI or ML features. So within this environment, which has been provisioned for you, all of these features have already been enabled. However, usually AI features listed as experimental and beta must be turned on at the group level by a user with the owner role. You're not going to have to do that today, but we could, if we wanted to, have asked how do we enable code suggestions or how to enable experimental and beta AI features for GitLab Duo. And we can copy that to our clipboard, paste it into our chat window there, and again, Duo will go away and it will find an answer for us. And again, it's being routed to the best LLM for this particular task. So it would have explained if this environment hadn't been provisioned for us, how you might go about doing that. Now, again, I'll just give you a minute or so just to have a play around with Duo Chat, ask it a few questions, see what it can do. You'll often find if you're asking a GitLab documentation-based question, it will give you links to the source documentation, which you can then follow for further information or to follow it up. If at any point I'm going too fast, just let me know and I can slow down as we go through. Okay, so Duo Chat is available via this button all across the platform. So it just gives you this ability to interact with it more or less anywhere, which is always very helpful for asking those kinds of technical questions. For example, how you might clone a repository, asking about kind of very GitLab specific questions and turning on or off certain features, or just generally interacting. Now, within GitLab, we have quite an opinionated view on Git flow. Our GitLab flow starts with an issue. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to start this off from the very beginning, from an issue, and we're going to be seeing how we can utilize AI in the form of Duo to help us with these. So let's say our project manager has given us a task, and our task is to secure our GitLab pipeline and fix any pressing vulnerabilities that we find. So we're going to use GitLab's plan capabilities to track our work. So what I'm going to do on the left-hand side here, it should already be in issues because that's where this is. If you just right-click, open in the new tab, as I said, I'll keep my instructions here. What we are going to do is create a new issue. Now, I'll just go back quickly. We are going to give our issue a title. It's around fixing any vulnerabilities in our pipeline, so we can give it a relevant title to that. And then we are going to click the Tanuki icon in the description section. So if I go here quickly, we can call it pipeline security. Sorry, my live typing isn't great. There we go. We go down to the description section here, and there should be this Tanuki icon, so the GitLab logo, and it's got the stars next to it. Anywhere you see this symbol indicates that you can interact with Duo in some way. Just to make sure that you are in, as it says in the instructions, plain text. If you are in the rich text editing mode, you will not get access to Duo here. Now, when you click on this, it gives us the ability to generate an issue description. And if I click into that, what I can do is write a brief prompt or description, and then GitLab Duo will fill in the details for me. So if I go back to my instructions very quickly, I'm going to have this prompt here, include GitLab scanners to secure our CI/CD pipeline and fix any newly discovered vulnerabilities. So I'm just going to copy that prompt. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to paste my prompt, and then I'm going to click submit. And again, it's just utilizing the large language models as part of GitLab Duo to kind of increase the level of description in this prompt. So there we go. Include GitLab security scanners. It's given us a description. It's given us some objectives. some acceptance criteria, additional notes, and I think very importantly, it has highlighted the fact down here that this description was generated with AI. Now, as kind of Sarah alluded to in the introduction and the theory, documentation is very important in the development process, but it's not always the most highly prioritized job, I think is how I'll describe it in this case. So it often gets pushed down the priority list. So if we can utilize AI to make sure that process is done and it's done relatively thoroughly, then it helps everyone as we go along. It might be, if we have a look through, that we're not actually 100% happy with this, we might have to make a few changes, but just from my quick scan through, it looks good to me. So once you've done that, we're going to click submit, and then we can assign this issue to ourselves. We can set a due date and we're going to click create issue. So assign it to myself. We could enter a due date and we'll just click create issue. And there we go. So it's got the issue formatted just as we saw there. And I can see Sarah's addition, that documentation is also boring. You're not wrong. Now, we've created an issue. Obviously, issues are then used as a point of collaboration. Issues have lots of activity. They have lots of comments on. Somewhere else we can really utilize Duo is to create some very concise summaries of lengthy discussions within issues and merge requests and epics and other areas. And what that does, hopefully, is allows team members to very quickly understand key points, decisions which have been made without having to read through an entire thread. And ultimately, improves efficiency. As you can make decisions faster, it helps with onboarding, you get up to speed much quicker, and helps everyone just stay aligned on important topics. So obviously in my issue, which we just, or your issue, which you've also just created, there are no comments on there, it's brand new. If you follow this link, it will open an issue which is about allowing API project access with job tokens. If we just have a quick scroll down, hopefully what we can see here is there's, I'm scrolling quite quickly and we're still not at the bottom. There are a lot of comments here, a lot of information. I could sit here and read through it all, and I'd probably be here till well into this webinar before I've actually got to the bottom and fully understood what's going on. So instead, if I just go back to my instructions here, what I can do is scroll to the section just above activity and click the view summary button, and it will generate an overview, a private overview of the issues discussions. So I'll just show how that works now. So I scroll down just above activity, you've got again the two kind of star symbols there, which indicate there's some Duo functionality. Click view summary, it opens the chat window. It's using one of our / commands again, in this case, summarize comments. And hopefully what it's doing is summarizing our comments for me. Let's just try that again, just in case. I would be intrigued to know if this is working for anyone else or if this is just a me problem right now. Let's try this. Let's just clear that. Someone else had to get it. Alexander had to get it to refresh to work. We'll give it a quick refresh and try again. Obviously, this is a demo environment, so sometimes. There we go. Yeah, maybe a quick refresh will get it to work. So yeah, within the demo environments, sometimes it's not quite as smooth as it would be in the actual GitLab.com. So there we go. Summarize the key comments for me. So giving me a relatively slimmed down kind of set of bullet points there. So it's much easier for me to actually get up to date on what's going on there. So just another example use case of where we can use AI to really improve our efficiency and kind of speed up these jobs, which are very time consuming and therefore don't always get prioritized. And yes, as we said, if that doesn't appear to be working for you, just refresh your page and then it should work. Right, I am going to close that tab now and just go back to my instructions. What you might note here, just as we go through, there's links to the documentation at all points, so you can have a bit more of an in-depth look into the functionality and how this works if you want to. Now, we've created our issue. we want to improve the security of our pipeline within our project here. So we're going to have to go to our pipeline configuration file, our YAML file. What we need to do is to execute the pipeline of this project to actually populate the project with some useful information, which we'll need as we go through the remainder of the workshop, such as the vulnerability report. So we are going to navigate on the left-hand side to the pipeline editor, and we're going to replace the current pipeline configuration with this code below. I'm just going to use the copy to clipboard button here because I don't want to be typing all of this out. On the left-hand side, if you go to build and then pipeline editor, again, I'm going to open this in a new tab just so I don't lose my instructions. I am going to go to my pipeline editor here, which is just opened up. I'm going to select all of the code that's currently here and replace it with the code block from the instructions. And what it's quickly doing, it's checked, it's validated my syntax is correct. And it's going to check the pipeline status, which should happen when I commit. So let's just check there wasn't anything else I had to do. I'm going to commit the changes, and I'll come back to this point in a second. Obviously, normally you'd do this with a meaningful commit message, but as this is just a workshop in a demo environment, I'll just commit it with the default message for now. So there we go. My pipeline's now running. Just while that's happening, I just want to draw your attention to these tabs here. So this is obviously the YAML, the configuration file I just pasted in. We can actually visualize what the pipeline might look like. So we've got 2 stages, build and test, 1 build job, many test jobs here because we've used, we have included some templates of various different security scanners. We can also validate the pipeline under selected conditions, which is particularly useful when you have a complex pipeline, just to actually have an idea about its behavior. And you can also see the full configuration. So where you include a template, actually what does that mean? What it's including? And as we can see, it's actually a far longer configuration file if you look at the full config there. So let's just quickly go back to my pipeline editor. We can actually, if we click into this icon here, you can see your pipeline running. So at the moment, it's the build job is currently running, as is the test job. Now, I was hoping my talking would have allowed this to have got to a certain point yet, but we'll leave it for now. Anyone have any questions at all? Just make sure it goes into the chat. There we go. Perfect. My build job has failed, which is fully intentional. I broke it on purpose, I promise. And the reason for this, if we scroll down, is we can get to our next Duo use case. And that is using Duo to fix a broken pipeline with something that we call our root cause analysis feature. So there are a few ways to get to this. I've obviously got my pipeline here, but I'm going to do this in the same way it's in the instructions. So again, I'm going to navigate through build and pipelines. So down here, build, pipelines, I'll open it in a new tab. I'll close my existing one. And we can see the pipelines that I've kicked off. So it's just one for now. And we can see 2 stages. The first stage, my build, or my build job within my build stage failed. By clicking on the link, which is the hash followed by a number, it will take you to that specific pipeline. So I can do that. And again, it just goes back to that screen where I was before, but it's just another way of getting here. Now, as I said, we expected this build job to fail. And why? Well, we want to use this root cause analysis feature, which is often referred to as troubleshoot. So if I go into my build job, which has failed, I can have a look at the job logs. I could, if I go back up to the top here, well, thousands of lines of job logs here, I could manually kind of read through these and actually see if I can get to the cause of this issue. It might be it's a particularly complex job. You might have to go away to Google, to Stack Overflow, and find out what the cause of this failure might be. Or we can click this blue troubleshoot button, which again features the stars to indicate there's some Duo functionality there. It opens up the chat window. It's basically using another /command /troubleshoot. And what is happening now is these job logs are being fed into the large language model, and it will analyze the root cause of this failure. And the idea of this, again, is it's a very time-consuming process, which might not be particularly enjoyable, and it's just speeding it up. So if I just wait for it to finish, there we go. It's given us the root cause. So somewhere along the lines, our access has been forbidden. It occurs during the Docker push step, so there's some step here which hasn't been done. It shows where the image is being pushed to. It's then giving us some example fixes, verify the authentication credentials, check repository permissions, and so on. So hopefully what it's doing is it's taking that time-consuming part of you going away and Googling and looking Stack Overflow to come up with the potential fixes. It's summarizing them here in the context of GitLab for you, and then you can try and work through these problems. Now, all in all, hopefully it's not a too complex problem this time. Essentially, we just haven't actually got access to to Docker to be able to push this image there to the registry. So what we need to do is just fix that within our configuration file. And again, sometimes it depends on the cause of the problem. Duo might give you some suggested code to use to fix it. In other instances, it might give you a few steps to follow. In this instance, what I can do is fix my pipeline just by copying and pasting this code block, which I have got here. So again, if I just copy it to my clipboard, I am going to go back through build into my pipeline editor, open it in a new tab, scroll down to my build stage, and just replace that with this code block here, which actually logs in this time. So we won't get the access denied or access forbidden error. And I will commit these changes. And there we go, they've been successfully committed. Checking our pipeline status, and the pipeline is now running. Now, we'll come back to that because what it's going to do is generate some security results from the scanners which we've just implemented. And those results will be important in populating our vulnerability report, which we'll come back to later. In the meantime, though, we can look at some other use cases with Duo Chat. So what I'm also going to do, I am just going to close my tab where I had my job logs and my troubleshoot. And as that pipeline's running, I'm also going to close that pipeline editor for now. Again, if I'm going too fast at all, just let me know. If not, I will continue as we are for now. I'll just give people a minute or two just to make sure you're all up to this point, that we've got our failed pipeline and that we've copied our code in to fix it, and we've had a go of the troubleshoot feature. And yeah, as Sarah said in the introduction, the theory side of things, we're not focusing 100% on code suggestions here. It's about implementing AI across the SDLC into all of those places where we can improve efficiency, from the somewhat boring jobs of documentation to the very time-consuming jobs of going through job logs to figure out why that build is failing. So we'll move on to this next step now, which is to ask more of GitLab Duo Chat. So again, I'm just going to open my chat window here. Actually, no, first of all, sorry, I'm just going to close it. I'm going to copy this prompt first of all, because you don't want to have to watch me type that out. So you saw in the video, which Shara said, a lot about AI is using it to help with boilerplate code. So we can ask Duo, for example, to create the GitLab CI YAML configuration file for testing and building a Ruby Sinatra application within a GitLab CI/CD pipeline, wrapping it in a code block. So if I ask that of Duo, it will go away and it will generate that for me. And the idea here is that you're able then to implement this. It might not be exactly correct for the application that you want to build, but hopefully it's done most of the work there, and you can just make the amendments that you need to make to it to get it to function exactly. There we go. It's got it in the code block, so I can literally copy this to my clipboard. And if I wanted to, I could open up a GitLab CI.YAML file. I could paste this in, and I could use this within my application. It's given us a little summary. It's told us what it's included. So test stage with unit tests and code quality checks, security scanning, asset compilation, deployment stages, caching to speed up the pipeline, and some environment-specific configurations. And as this is a chat window, you can do a bit of back and forth here, and you could actually ask it to kind of change a few things. You could ask how it might work. So you've got that capability. Now, I'm not going to commit this. This is just an example to show you what you can utilize Duo for. So we'll just move on from that one, and we'll have a look at what else we can use Duo to do. And another bit is to write more documentation, this time documentation for code. So on the left sidebar again, I'm going to go code, and I'm going to open up my repository. Again, I'm going to do that in a new tab just so I keep my instructions here. Now, I'm going to go to a specific file here. So if I go into my repository, I am going to go into lib, Tanuki Racing, and just to double check, it was app.rb that we want to go into. So we can open up this just within GitLab here. And this is a particular Ruby file for this application that we have. Now, it might be that you've inherited this project from another developer, another team. It's not been very well documented, and you want to figure out what's going on. You can document it and keep everyone else or get everyone else up to speed. So we can ask Duo to create this documentation for us. And again, so you don't see my terrible live typing, I'll copy that to the clipboard. I will go back to my window with my file in. I will paste this instruction. So we want to write documentation for the file we currently have open, app.rb. So we're just making sure Duo has got the correct context, providing the output in a code block as raw markdown so we can then copy it. And again, if we ask Duo to do that, it will then create this documentation for us. It's got an overview, what this file is doing, the classes, the configuration, database initialization, routes. So it's kind of summarized what each route does, and some security considerations as well. So it's actually, if we have a look down here, kind of pointed out a potential vulnerability or a weakness here in terms of security. So we can utilize Duo to create this documentation to bring everyone up to speed, and so that people are able to maintain this code more easily in the future. Again, if I just go back to my instructions, I'm not going to commit this. I'm not going to actually create my documentation for this, but it's just something we can ask Duo to do. So you can ask GitLab Duo anything you want to ask it to. And I'm going to give you another minute or two now to have a go at that. If you'd like to share your best questions and responses, you can kind of comment on this issue. You can mention them. And another quite important thing, I think, is that you can communicate with Duo Chat in different languages. So you don't have to communicate with it in English. I am, because unfortunately that's the only language I speak. But if you speak a different language, have a go with Duo Chat in a different language and see what happens. Yeah, I'll just give everyone a minute or two to have a go and ask it anything you'd like to at this point. Out of interest, did anyone or has anyone tried to use Duo in a language other than English? I would be very intrigued to know what you think of it.
German works quite well, I have to say. So
Yeah, it's obviously my ability to test this is very limited. So I have to rely 100% on what other people tell me it does in other languages. It's interesting to know. Right, well, hopefully you've had an opportunity there just to ask it anything you wanted to. Hopefully, maybe trying out other languages as well. As I said, you can always comment on the issue, and tag us in that if you'd like to. Now, what I am going to do, I'm just going to close the other tab I had open. I don't need it anymore at the moment. And we're going to have a look now at the ability to use GitLab Duo to analyze vulnerabilities. So the most important thing we need to do is to check that the pipeline, our repaired pipeline that we kicked off, is now complete. So again, if we go to build and then pipelines, opening it up in a new tab, there we go. So I've got my first pipeline where my build job failed, and I then have my second pipeline, which I can click into by clicking on the hash followed by the number here. And we can see that this time my build job passed along with all of my test jobs here. So the various different scanners which we implemented in the YAML. Now, what I'd ask everyone to do here actually is just to spend some time looking at the information provided to you here, just exploring the job results and the information tabs. So in addition to the pipeline tab, which gives you this overview of the pipeline itself, you can go into the individual jobs, so telling you what stage they're in. If there are any tests, but there are no test reports in this particular pipeline. There's a security tab, which gives you a somewhat worrying overview of the number of vulnerabilities maybe in this application, which have been detected. Luckily, there were no secrets, so I guess that's a plus for us. It gives us a breakdown of all of these vulnerabilities here, their status, their severity, a description, and the identifier, as well as the particular security scanner which picked them up. And we also have the license tab, and we can see it's detected 5 licenses which don't meet the criteria that aren't compliant, and what they are used by within our application. So yeah, if everyone just wants to have a quick look through those very quickly. I can also see that Peter said that Duo works okay in Swedish, which is good to know. So again, yeah, just 30 seconds just to have a look through those particular tabs, just so you get an overview of what this pipeline has actually done. Now, I've gone back to my instructions again. And what I can actually now do is have a look at an overview of all of the vulnerabilities which are currently present in this project. And I can do this by going on the left-hand side again through my secure menu into my vulnerability report to view the full report for this. So secure, vulnerability report, again, open that up in a new tab. And there we can see, so this is an overview of the whole project. There's in excess of 1,000 vulnerabilities. We've got them broken down by severity, critical, high, medium, low. So clearly a lot of high and medium vulnerabilities, quite a few low vulnerabilities, and 76 critical. It tells us when this was last updated, so 11 minutes ago. And it's also generated an SBOM as well as part of this because of the scanners which were implemented in our configuration file. Now, I'll just go back to the instructions very quickly. What we can do is click into any of the vulnerabilities that are within our vulnerability report here, and just get a bit of a feel for what the information is actually telling us. So let's have a look at this one. So if we click into it, we have a brief description. So the S3 bucket allows a public policy. It's severity critical. It tells us its location, so where the project is actually found. It was detected by our SAS scanner. It tells us the location within the file where it is, and the identifier. So all of these vulnerabilities will have this kind of amount of information, so we can have an overview of what the vulnerability is, where it is, and how it has been found. So again, if I just go back to the overview. Now, what we want to do is find a specific vulnerability, so we can have a look at another Duo capability. And what we want to do is we want to find a vulnerability which is a use of a weak hash, and we want to do this by filtering our vulnerability report to all statuses still detected, but detected specifically by GitLab Advanced SAST. So if I just go back to my vulnerability report, you can see here we've got these filters already applied. If I click into this box, I can then select scanner, and I can select GitLab Advanced SAST. And if I hit tab, it will then populate that for me. And just as my instructions or our instructions have told us, we should be able to find this use of a weak hash vulnerability here. Now, obviously, all of these were detected by a SAST scanner because we filtered it with GitLab's Advanced SAST scanner. And what you might notice is that 2 of these 3 have got this Tanuki icon here, which, as I said, indicates there's some kind of Duo functionality which we can use here. Just to go back to this very quickly, we're going to go into the use of weak hash vulnerability, and then we're going to gain a bit of insight about this vulnerability by utilizing Duo. So if I go back to my vulnerability report, click into the use of weak hash just like I did previously. Again, I've got a description, a secure code example, the severity, where it's located, what detected it, its specific location within the file, so what line it's on, and the various identifiers. Now, obviously, developers might not be confident with every single type of vulnerability which they come across. So this is another really important use case for AI to actually kind of upskill and enable developers when it comes to writing secure code. So what we might notice is this blue button in the top right-hand corner, which gives us the ability to explain or resolve with AI. And if I just click on that, it will give me 2 options, resolve or explain with AI. We're just going to explain with AI at the moment. So I'll click that button. And again, essentially, it's using a /command/vulnerability explain. So you could have just opened up the chat window and typed that in. It works the same way. But it is giving us a whole load of very useful information around this particular vulnerability. And again, I'll just let it finish. There we go. So it's given us a bit of the analysis. So what file it's in and this particular hashing algorithm which is used. The identifiers for this particular vulnerability, and also why it's really a problem. It's given us the impact, so what could happen if we utilize this particular type of encryption here. It's given us an attack scenario, which I always think is particularly useful to really understand how this could be how this could actually be exposed. And it's also, and again, very importantly, given us some remediation steps here. So it's given us 3 options here, how we might go around fixing this within our application. And it's also given us some best practices, so things to take on board as you go forward, how you might avoid this problem in the future. And just a kind of summary, if we replace this with a stronger algorithm, we will significantly reduce the risk of these collision attacks and improve the overall security of our application, which should align with our shift left approach. We want to do this before we actually commit any code into our main branch, usually. As it said, check out the remediation section. All we need to do is change the SHA we're using, as SHA-1 is very, very insecure. So it's changed it to 256 there. So we can utilize Duo to explain these vulnerabilities. Now, I'll just give everyone 30 seconds, a minute, just to make sure you're all up to speed getting to that explain with AI, and then we'll have a look at how we might use AI to resolve this particular vulnerability. If you are having any troubles with this at all, just drop a comment in in the chat or ask one of the questions and someone will be able to help you out. If you aren't getting all of the scanner results, just make sure that you did fix the pipeline, which then includes all of the scanners which you need to do this, just in one of the earlier steps. So we could jump in and start using code suggestions to help fix our security vulnerabilities. But before we do that, we're going to try the resolve with AI capability. And what we're going to do, we'll close that Duo chat window we had open to go back to our overall vulnerability view. We'll click that same button in the top right-hand corner, but this time we'll click resolve with AI and we will see what happens instead. So go back to my tab here with the vulnerability, close my Duo chat window, back to this button, and instead of explain, we are going to select resolve with AI. Now, this takes a little bit longer. It's not going to give you the result instantly, but what it is doing is creating a merge request, which will then contain the changes to the code base to actually resolve this particular vulnerability, which has been detected by our advanced SAS scanners. So here we go. It's a merge request created from this particular vulnerability. I think very importantly in the header here, again, just like with our issue description, it says it's AI generated. I think that's very important. And it does say to use this feature with caution. So anything which is entirely AI generated does require human oversight, and that's something which is really important as we go through. But essentially, it's described the solution here. So this particular algorithm isn't particularly secure anymore. It's done the same analysis which we had in the vulnerability explanation, summarized it, the changes which it has made as well. So what we can actually do within our merge request is we could go into these changes and we can see where Duo has actually changed our code base to fix this vulnerability. So not only can we use AI to help us explain these vulnerabilities to us, but also to help us remediate them. And again, it's just all about empowering developers to kind of push secure code as quickly as possible and detect these vulnerabilities as early on in the process and fix them as early on in the process as well. And I think AI has a lot of potential use to do that. There we go. So as a developer, you could then choose to merge that if you're happy with the changes that it's made, you understood the changes there, or you could kind of iterate on that ever so slightly if you weren't 100% happy, if you wanted to make a few changes. As part of this workshop, you don't have to merge that proposed merge request, so we can just leave it for now. Now, we're going to have a look at a different vulnerability now. And we're going to fix this or resolve it by using code suggestions. So again, I'm just going to close that tab I had open. I'm also going to close the pipeline tab just to clear it up a bit. So again, we are going to go into our secure submenu and then vulnerability report, and I'll open up a new tab. We're going to filter again, essentially by advanced SAST. So I select my scanner, advanced SAST, hit tab. There we go. It should be the same three vulnerabilities which we filtered for first time round, but this time we're going to have a look at this authorization bypass through user-controlled key vulnerability. What you might notice is this one doesn't have the blue Tanuki symbol here, so we can't actually use Duo to resolve this vulnerability for us. So let's go back to our instructions. We're going to go back into it and we will again utilize the Duo to explain it, but we'll have a look at what we then do next. So into the authorization bypass vulnerability, you've still got this button in the top right, but as I said, it's the resolve with AI is grayed out. We can't use that one in this instance. We can still explain this vulnerability with AI though. So just like before, we can click that. It uses the / command. vulnerability explain. I think I'm going to have to refresh this page again. I'm not sure if anyone else is having this same problem. Let's just refresh that one and explain. Or maybe it's not going to do it at all. I can see Alessandra is having the same problem. Let's try using the slash. Okay, so if you are having that same problem as I just was there, if you in the chat box here, if you type slash and then begin to type vulnerability, you should be able to select vulnerability explain from the menu that appears, or type it in full, and it does exactly the same thing. It functions in the same way. It's just not utilizing that button. And again, by typing this vulnerability explain into the chat here, it has summarized this particular vulnerability in terms of what it is, why it's happening, potential attack scenarios, and a secure solution, and also the best practices for prevention of this particular vulnerability. So again, if you're a developer, you've discovered this vulnerability. After your pipelines run, you can use Duo to help explain this to you so that you can then remediate this problem. I'll just give everyone 30 seconds to a minute just to make sure we're all up to the same stage. So we've got into this particular vulnerability, the authorization bypass, and that we've managed to get Duo to explain it to us. And again, if you're struggling, if the UI button didn't work just like it did for me, if you just type slash vulnerability explain, it should still function for you. Just going to go back to the instructions very quickly. So at this point, Duo can resolve some SAST vulnerabilities, but not all of them. And we do have a list in the documentation around what you can and can't use Duo to resolve at this point. Yeah, we are constantly iterating there. So over time, the number of SAST vulnerabilities which can be resolved with AI will increase. It's just it takes time to make sure it's tested so that any AI generated fixes are as secure as possible. So hopefully everyone has been able to explain that vulnerability. And again, if you want me to slow down at all, please just let me know and I can give a bit more of a break to let everyone catch up. But if not, we'll continue. So we can't resolve this vulnerability with AI. We've been able to explain it though. What we want to do is to locate the location of this vulnerability, so where it is within our code base, which should be lib tanuki racing db.rb line 42. And we should be able to follow the hyperlink. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And we want to try and fix that. What we are going to do is copy some of the fix into our code base to actually get this done. But we'll find the file first. So if we go back to our vulnerability tab, location here, lib/tanuki racing/db.rb42, which is as we expected. And this is the particular line here which has caused this vulnerability. So if you click that hyperlink, it should open up this particular file, and it should also highlight it for you to make it nice and clear that this is the one which we are looking for. If you then open Duo Chat, it should also have that same vulnerability explanation here for this vulnerability, because we're going to use some of the code from that. So again, just so I stay on top of my tabs, I'm going to get rid of this other vulnerability tab now. We don't need it. And if we just go back to the instructions. So what we are going to do, ensuring our chat window is still open, we're going to highlight this entire get specific or get underscore specific function and click the question mark that appears on the left-hand side. That will explain what that function does in natural language. and hopefully help us with this fix. So if I go back to this file here, I'm going to highlight this entire function, and hopefully you can see this question mark has appeared to the left. If I click that, it's using another / command with Duo Chat, which is /explain, and that is going to explain this particular function within this file. So it's a class method that retrieves a specific record from a leaderboard database table. It breaks it down essentially line by line and even kind of beyond that as to what it does. But it also points out there's a potential issue, a security issue there. So it might be vulnerable to SQL injection as well. So we've explained that. You can highlight any portion of this code. And again, this question mark will appear and it will allow you to explain that. So again, I'll just give everyone 30 seconds to a minute just to have a go with that explain function here, just so you can get to grips with utilizing it in this way. Okay, well, hopefully everyone's had a go there, just explaining bits of this code, some of the functions. We'll go back to the instructions quickly. So now, what we've done, we've detected a vulnerability. We've gone to the file which contains, or the line within the file that causes that vulnerability, and we've then used Duo to give us a bit more information about the function. So what we can try and do is fix it and do some development with GitLab code suggestions. So as Sarah said to start with, code suggestions with AI is very important, but there's a whole load of other work we can do with AI before we even get to that stage. So before we make any code changes, we'll want to create a merge request to track our work. Now, we've already created an issue. That was one of the first things we did here. So we're going to go back to that issue. We'll get to that issue by going to our plan menu on the left-hand side and then issues. I'll open it up in a new tab here. Just close the other one I had open. If you go to that tab, you should see two issues. The one which contains all of our instructions and the one which you created and used Duo to populate the description for earlier on in this workshop. From that issue, you are going to click Create Merge Request. There we go. Now, once you've clicked that button, it will open up a merge request as we saw. On that page, we're going to uncheck the mark as draft. Everything else will leave exactly the same. We'll scroll to the bottom and we will click Create Merge Request. So I'll go back to my merge request, uncheck mark as draft, which just removes that draft prefix there. Scroll to the bottom and create a merge request. And there we go, just taking a little bit of time to load my merge request. And it should then open up this merge request. And I've just got to pop saying my internet connection is unstable, which isn't great when you're doing a live workshop, but hopefully that problem resolves itself. And again, I'll just give everyone a little bit of time just to get to this merge request stage. Obviously, your title of your merge request might vary depending on what you initially named your issue, but that's absolutely fine. That's not going to impact our work here. So what we're going to do with this merge request is repair or to remediate this vulnerability which we've discovered. So I'll just go back to our instructions very quickly. What we are going to be using today is the web IDE. Duo does have plugins, as Sarah said, for a range of desktop IDEs, but just for simplicity, I'm going to stick to the web IDE. We'll open it by clicking code in the top right-hand corner, and then we're going to navigate through to that file which contains this line of code which is causing this vulnerability. So it's the function on line 42, of lib/tanuki-racing/db.rb. So we'll do that now. Go into our merge request. We click code in the top right-hand corner, open Web IDE, which should open your Web IDE in a new tab. Just take a little bit to load. On the left-hand side, you should have the all of your files and directories. If you go into lib, Tanuki Racing, then it was in db.rb. And on line 42, we have this function. We have part of the function which has caused this vulnerability. Now, what we want to do is to remediate this vulnerability. I'll just give everyone a few seconds to get to this point just before I continue. Again, if anyone's got any problems at all, make sure you ask questions in the chat or using the Q&A as we go through. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the instructions very quickly because there's something I need to copy to my clipboard. So we've gone to that file, so lib tanuki racing db.rb. We found the function or the line of the function on line 42, which has caused this particular vulnerability. So we want to fix this. We could use the code suggested to us when we utilized the explain vulnerability feature earlier on. If you didn't copy that to your clipboard, like I forgot as well, you can just copy the fix which is here in the instructions. So I'll copy that. I'll go back to my Web IDE, and I'm going to replace that with our new code block, our new line of code there. I'm not going to commit my changes yet because we're going to do a few other things within the Web IDE first. So if we just go back to the instructions, all we've done so far is we've just copied this line of code here over the line which was already on 42, which should remediate that particular vulnerability. But what we can do is utilize Duo Chat to kind of really double check the code that we've just added to make sure it was secure. So we're going to use Duo Chat within the Web IDE to do this. On the left-hand side, you've got the menu. One of those menu items is the GitLab Duo Chat AI icon, which I'll show you shortly. We will click on that, and it will open up the Duo Chat window, just like we've been using in the UI here. Now, exactly the same, you'll get some intro commands which are offered as part of the UI, but this time we're going to use a shortcut to interact with Duo Chat instead. We're going to highlight the code snippet we've just added, and we're going to get Duo Chat to explain this selected code. And we're then going to use Duo Chat to add comments to our code by using this refactor / command. So we'll do those bits first. We'll go back into our IDE. What you should see on the left-hand side here is the GitLab Duo Chat icon. And if you click that, it will open it on the left-hand side. You can move this around. So if you click on the icon, I generally work with it on the right-hand side just so it mimics, oh, he says as he breaks it. So it mimics the GitLab.com UI. There we go. I'm not entirely sure why that happened there, but you can drag it around just by moving that. Just as in the UI we've seen previously, it gives us these kind of pre-populated questions which we could ask. But what we want to do is just explain this function which we've altered, hopefully fixing our vulnerability. So if I highlight that function, if you right-click, you can then use some GitLab Duo Chat shortcuts. So there's a few which pop up here: explain selected snippet, fix, generate tests, open quick chat, and refactor. They also all have keyboard shortcuts as well, depending on how you want to interact with this. I'm just going to use the menu for now. So I'm going to ask it to explain this selected snippet. And again, it's then use the / command to explain with the context of this specific function. And it's going to explain what it does. So again, it's a class method. It tells us what parameters it takes in. It tells us what the code does. It's actually suggested an improvement, which we could incorporate. And this current implementation will likely raise an error because we can't chain where on a single record returned by first. So we could have a look at that and actually fix it. But the important thing to note is it hasn't detected any vulnerabilities there. So it looks like this piece of code is more secure than the initial one, which was there. What we also wanted to do was to kind of add some documentation, which again is another key use case for Duo, is to really kind of ensure our code is maintainable and readable for other users. So if we just go back to the instructions, we can use the / command refactor add code comments. So what I mean by this, I've got my function highlighted. If I type /, it opens up all of the / commands we can use, one of which is refactor. I could just type /refactor and it would refactor the code, but I can be more specific by saying add code comments, and it means it's going to refactor my code in a specific way. I could select a larger block of code and I could say refactor for maintainability, and it might refactor it in such a way that it's more modular and reusable and easier to kind of maintain over the long term. But I'm going to refactor with add code comments. And again, Duo Chat will take our request to the correct large language model and do this. So it's now given us some comments which we can actually add to our code. Now, what you might notice here in this code block, there are 2 buttons, one of which is the standard copy to clipboard button, so I can just copy all of this. I've also got this button here, which will insert this code block wherever my cursor is within the current file. I'm just going to copy it for now and paste it over there. So I've now got my commented code. So we can use Duo Chat within the Web IDE to again, kind of focus on these tasks which are quite time consuming and not always prioritized. Now, we just explained our code and we've added some comments to our code. We could also, to make sure our code is secure and working correctly, we could generate some unit tests. So in the exact same way we just highlighted and selected explain, we can do the same and choose generate tests. Again, I'm not going to commit this code because it's just a demo environment, but you know, you've got this access to this environment for 2 days after today, so you might be able to go and actually utilize this feature a bit more in depth. And you can also learn how to upload pipeline test reports. So we had that tab within our pipeline, which didn't have any reports. You can learn how you populate that. So if I go back to my IDE, again, highlight my specific function here, and I can select generate tests. So I just right-clicked GitLab Duo Chat and then generate tests. Again, it uses a / command within the chat interface, and it'll generate some unit tests for this particular function. We could have selected the entire file and asked it to generate tests, but for now we'll just focus on this one new function that we've done. Here we go. So it's given us a test suite to test this one particular function. There's quite a few tests there, so it's done quite an exhaustive job. It's got some important test cases, and it's explained what these tests are actually verifying. It's also explained what we'd need to have in place to run these tests, so the test unit gem installed, and to ensure our database configuration is properly set up. So it's not just the tests, it's also the surrounding information that you might need to help you actually utilize those. So this is all within kind of code suggestions within the IDE at the moment, just trying to really speed up the development process. And as I said, I'm not going to commit those tests at this point. We would have to probably create another directory, a test directory for that. But if you wanted to go away and have a play after today, then that's absolutely fine. Now, what we might also notice is that our database.rb file doesn't have a delete leader method. So we need to fix that. Our project manager has made it clear that there are a lot of fake records that we need to get rid of as soon as possible. So we want to get this in place quite quickly. Now I'm going to copy this comment. And if I go back to my IDE, underneath my function here, I'm going to paste my comment. And what you can do, you can comment in natural language, and it will then generate code from that. You might have seen very quickly the Tanuki icon appeared there to indicate something's happening. I can then hit tab and it will then create that code block for me. It's commented it, so it explains what it's actually doing. And it has then created this delete to leader function within here. Now, you can write your natural language comments for other functions as well if you'd like to give it a go, but it will use the code generation to kind of create the code block for that. I'm not a Ruby developer, so I would have to go away and actually just double check that this functions as it should do. I'm not saying any kind of AI generated code should just be committed without any human oversight. So always check it, always ensure like the proper code review process is happening. But for the demo today, we'll leave that one there. Now, if we go back to the instructions again, what we need to do is now navigate to our lib/tanuki racing/app.rb file, and we are going to use the new method that we wrote. So we're going to use this prompt here to generate a route, which is going to call this delete leader function from our Tanuki Racing database. So again, to save us typing it out, we can copy it to our clipboard. We can go back into our IDE. We want to open the app.rb file, and we can put this comment anywhere in here. I am going to put it in between the about and edit board routes because I think that's the best place for it here, as it's a route which is going to impact our leaderboard. Again, hopefully you can see this Tanuki icon here, which indicates that Duo is writing or about to generate some code for us. Once it's generated the code block, if you hit tab, it then completes it for us. So what it's done is it's written a delete route that calls the delete leader function from the Tanuki Racing database. So it's now calling that function, which we just wrote previously. Now, if I just go back here, just a note, code suggestions, so code completion, code generation, uses open files in tabs as reference for how to write the function. If you notice, I've got both of these files open, so it'll be able to use context from the database file as well. If you didn't have that open, you might then need to edit the generated code ever so slightly to actually get it to function as intended. I'm not going to commit this code yet because we're going to do a bit more first, so we'll come back to that in a second. I'm just going to give everyone a minute or so to make sure you're all up to speed, that you've got this delete leader function written, as well as the route which calls that from the database. And then we will continue with creating a new class. Again, all of this hopefully is just increasing the efficiency with which developers can work. And it might not give you all of the code you need. As it says here, you might need to do a bit of editing to get the correct final result, but hopefully it's allowing you to get a good starting or a good start on the code you're writing. So we've done as our project manager asked. We've kind of written this route to delete fake records. We've written the function to delete fake records and a route to actually call that function. What our project manager has now asked us to do is to write a brand new calculator class, which ultimately will be used to add up player track times. So to do this, we are going to have to make a new file, which we're going to call calc.rb. We're going to make this within the Tanuki Racing folder, within the lib folder. So if I go back to my IDE, I want to make sure I'm in Tanuki Racing. I can either right-click new file, or I can use the new file button up here. Both work the same way. And I'm going to call it calc.rb and just hit enter to create that file. Just to make sure it does sit in the same level as the app and the db.rb files there, and that you haven't created it in the wrong place. Now, again, we've got a natural language prompt, define a calculator class for other functions to use. If we copy that and we paste it in here. Again, we can see the Tanuki icon here, which indicates something's happening, and it's defined this class. So it's got add, subtract, multiply, divide, power, square root. If I just quickly go back to my instructions, you're given suggestions, hit the tab key to accept them. If it ever gets stuck, you can try hitting spacebar or enter. What you might notice, I went back to the comment and hit enter again just to get it to generate that class there to start with. If we go back and, oh, I've got rid of it by leaving there, sorry. So go back into it. Hit tab to accept this particular calculator class, which it's generated for us. It will write, or it could write a very in-depth calculator function. Eventually, it might start to loop back around, so you can stop it after 5 methods. I just accepted the first one there. As a note, code suggestions isn't just for Ruby files. I know this is a Ruby application. It supports multiple languages. I think it's now 25 plus languages. I know we can share the documentation around exactly which ones those are. If within the web IDE you navigate to the AI sandbox folder, which is just up here, there's a whole load of different files where you can test code suggestions. So they have some comments here. They're all leak code problems, and you can use code suggestions to write a solution to those. And it's not, as we said, just Ruby. Maybe you want to work in Python instead, or Java. It supports all of these. What I'd suggest, you've got access to the project for another 2 days. If you wanted to have a go at utilizing code suggestions within that AI sandbox and see what you can actually get it to do. And I think with a bit of iteration and refinement, you can get it to do some quite cool things. So, you could choose one of them, as it says here, and write a hello world example or something more advanced. And you've got the next 2 hours to have a go at doing that. So we've made some changes to this application now. What we want to do is commit this code to our merge request branch. So we'll do that by going to the source control button on the left-hand side, writing a short commit message, and clicking commit and push. Just make sure that we are committing it to the merge request branch. So if I go here, go to my source control menu, commit message. So this is just a test for now. I'm committing it to my pipeline security branch, so that's fine. So click that. And what we can then do is on the bottom right here, follow the go to merge request button, which will then take us back to our merge request. And we can see it's kicked off our pipeline here. Right, I'm just going to close the old merge request I had open, as well as the web IDE for now, just to have a tab cleanup. So one of the kind of newest additions with Duo is the ability to review changes within a merge request. So before you merge a change, you need to have a code review. And for that to really work, you need to give the reviewer as much context as possible. And that kind of comes back to this documentation side of things, which often isn't prioritized, as we said. So if we'll have a look, our merge request doesn't yet have a description. We can use Duo to summarize our code changes for us, which will create a short description of the diffs in the merge request based on our code changes. So if we go back to our merge request, we click the edit button in the top right. We could change our title, we don't want to. We go to the description field here, we can click the summarize code changes currently in beta. And what it will do is it will look at the changes we've made to the code, to the various files in our code base, and it will summarize those for us. So three features it's going to be added. We've got our new route for deleting leaders. We've got a calculator, and we've got improved database functionality. So again, it's summarizing at the very least the code changes we've made. It might be, as a developer, you then need to add a bit more information as to why these changes have been made. But really that should have been documented in the issue anyway. But it's just ensuring the documentation is there to make the code reviewer's job as easy as possible. If we just scroll down, click Save Changes, we have then got our Duo generated description here. So at the very least now, a reviewer can come in and they can very quickly glance over at what changes have been made. Now, just go back to the instructions again. Another place we can use Duo within the kind of code review and the merge request process is to generate a meaningful commit message. Underneath, oh, sorry, I've skipped a step actually. I'll come back to number 3. I'll do number 2 first because that makes more sense. So before we actually ask another human, another reviewer to come in and review our changes, we could actually ask Duo to give us some feedback first. So we could ask Duo to review this merge request and provide some feedback on our code quality and readability. Again, I'll copy that prompt. I will open up Duo Chat. I'll paste that prompt in. And what Duo is going to do is have a look at the code and the changes which have been made here. And it's just going to give us a small amount of feedback on the actual quality of the code which has been changed and also its readability. And all of this is about trying to kind of shift left to get feedback as quickly as we can do so that we can make the changes much faster. So again, it's given us an overall assessment, so a kind of summary of what's happened. We've added some useful functionality, but there are some concerns which we should address. It's broken it down by file, so strengths, concerns, suggestions for each of the 3 changes we've made, and it's given us a summary. So we could then go back to our changes and we could make some improvements. Then, as I was about to say for the next helpful use of Duo here, in our merge request, we have this edit commit message tick box. If I select that, at the moment, it's just giving me a very factual merge commit summary. So which branch is being merged into main, the name of the merge request we're resolving, which issue it closes, and a bit of information, or at least the link to it. I could use Duo to generate a more meaningful commit message here, so that if you're reviewing this, you have a better idea as to what's actually been changed. So what we have implemented, so delete root, calculator class, we fixed a certain method, we've added a delete leader function. And I could insert that into my commit message here. Again, it is highlighted, it was generated by GitLab Duo, so that it's AI generated, we can be aware of that. But all of this is helping to better document the changes we made. It takes far less time, and it means the person who's going to do the review then has more information to work with. It makes their job easier as well. Then our final bit I'm going to show you, which I think is particularly interesting, is you can now use Duo. You can assign Duo as a code reviewer. So at the very bottom of the merge request, we have the comment box, and we can add the comment / assign reviewer, and then we can tag GitLab Duo. If we then comment that, it will add GitLab Duo as a reviewer, and Duo will go through the changes we've made, and it will add relevant comments in a thread, which we can then interact with. So if I go back here, scroll down to the comment box, / assign reviewer. So I'll just select it and hit tab. It will give me a few suggested people. I could select myself, but I've just changed the code, so I shouldn't be reviewing it. Instead, I can use Duo. Hit comment. It's assigned Duo. Duo will then comment to say that it's starting to review your merge request, and that Duo will let you know when it has finished. It does take a minute or so to go through, but it's going to go through. It's going to look at the changes made to the code. Here we go. And it's going to start a thread with comments. So again, potential security issue, some suggested changes. There we go. Potentially a SQL injection. So I'll let Duo go and do its thing there. But again, if you've got 2 more days to have a go with this environment, you could make some changes to the code base. You could create your own files. You can then use Duo to review it and to give you an idea of what your code is actually like. And that is it for the workshop stage. As we said, there's kind of additional things you can have a go at. There's other files within the code base itself where you can have a go at using the code suggestions. I think my advice would just be to go away and over the next couple of days, have a go at this and see what you can do with Duo. Yeah, has anyone got any questions about the workshop at this point? If not, I was going to say, I don't know how everyone else feels about having a quick break for a couple of minutes before we continue, or
Sounds great. I would agree. Let's get everyone take a breath and then we can continue with question and answers.
yeah. Wonderful. How long do we want to have a break for? What should we say?
Let's take 5, I guess.
5 minutes. Perfect.
Sounds
What I
great.
will do, if I stop sharing my screen temporarily, and I can set a 5-minute timer, which I don't know. Can everyone else see that? Perfect. There we go. So yeah, if we have a quick 5-minute break, if you want to go grab a drink, if you want to ask some, type some questions out, by all means do so, and then we can come back in 5 minutes.
Thank you. I was a little surprised by the chiming, but
Yes, yeah, no, the chiming definitely didn't mesh well with the very relaxing music.
that was soft Hawaiian breeze.
Oh, very nice. Just while we wait for people to come on back, do we want to do another poll, the GitLab experience poll? Just because some people might be a little bit late back from getting a drink or anything. I can launch that one. So just, I guess your familiarity with GitLab at this point, like I don't know how many of you are using it on a day-to-day basis, or if this is your first time kind of having a look at it really. A definite majority in the middle. So I don't feel like many people can say they're a seasoned pro at using it end to end from kind of plan to deploy. I don't know. That's there's a lot to know.
Only 3 people said, "Oh, I'm a pro." I like that. Maybe people are underestimating how good they are.
Yeah. Give another minute or so for people to finish up with the poll and come on back from a short break, and then we can continue.
I see a lot of responses, so I think we're good to go.
Yeah, I think so.
25
Right.
answer 26.
26 answers. Any more? 27.
Ooh, that was the the right thing to call out, I guess.
Yeah. Right. I think we can probably end that one there with about 2/3 of us saying pretty comfortable with GitLab. Yeah, the vast majority. Right. So yeah, we've had the kind of theory side of things. We've had the hands-on workshop. As we said, you've got access to that for another 2 days. So by all means, go and make the most of that environment. Really test it out and give it a go. And yeah, we've got just a little bit more information with regards to GitLab AI and best practices. So yeah, over to me again, and I will share my screen. And again, hopefully everyone can see that one. Yeah, what we're going to have a look at now is just some best practices, or GitLab consider best practices around AI. And again, I think Sarah made this clear in the introduction, and I tried to make this clear as we're doing the workshop itself. AI shouldn't just be code suggestions. It should be more than that. And one of the benefits of having a single platform is that we can incorporate AI throughout the entire software development lifecycle, rather than just fragmenting it into one part or having lots of different AI integrations at different areas. So to really truly unlock the benefit, the efficiency gains, the productivity, you need to be able to apply AI and large language models to planning, to code creation, to testing, security, monitoring, all the way through the software development lifecycle. And ideally, you need it from one unified data store so that it has the context to actually be able to benefit you as much as possible. And that's really the kind of GitLab approach to AI here. Now, obviously, as a result of this, DevSecOps, I think I'm going to put the emphasis on the security part here, has never been more important. So obviously, AI has exploded into the development space in a relatively short amount of time. which has massively increased the amount of AI generated code which is being produced. And again, as I tried to say throughout the workshop, although I was just copying it into the web IDE, into our code base at that time, in reality, you want to have human oversight. You don't just want to trust AI generated code. And as a result of anything, we really should be scanning more. So security always has been important and now is so much more important. So enterprises must have a security framework in place to properly test AI generated code to make sure that we're not introducing any vulnerabilities. Because if you just generate more and more code via AI and you're not actually testing this properly, the number of vulnerabilities will probably also increase. So the security aspect of DevSecOps has never been more important than it is now. And again, that's something key to our kind of AI ethos. Now, this is where one comprehensive platform is key. So GitLab is where enterprises, as we say, build mission critical software. We are a comprehensive DevSecOps platform. So you can have the entire software development lifecycle on one platform. And as a result, we can then integrate AI throughout and also have the correct guardrails in place. In addition, as we spoke about, we are kind of transparency and privacy first around AI, and we can share our link to the AI Transparency Center with everyone afterwards, so you have insight into our thought process around it. Now, the one thing I didn't show you in the workshop, because it doesn't really work in a demo environment so much, is insights into the impact of AI. So to have an idea as to the impact you're actually having by utilizing AI within your software development lifecycle, we've got the GitLab AI Impact Analytics dashboard, which gives you insightful updates into not just how the AI is actually being used, but also its overall impact. So you have an idea of the number of Duo users within your organization, the idea of the unique users of code suggestions, and the acceptance rate of code suggestions, and also the trends in key metrics for any particular project or group. So you can actually see, after implementing AI within that project, within that group, how that's impacted the metrics, or potentially how code suggestion usage has impacted those metrics over time. And this AI Impact Analytics dashboard is, again, an area of constant iteration. We are constantly thinking about what metrics are meaningful in terms of representing AI impact, and there's lots of things in place on the roadmap for this particular dashboard. All of these metrics are also available, as it says here, through the GitLab GraphQL API, so you can query that data yourself. You don't have to use the dashboard; it is also available that way. Sorry, one slide too many. And just in case kind of people weren't aware of this, so there's the 2024 Gartner Magic Quadrant for AI code assistance. GitLab was recognized as a leader, and it's the first ever year of this category, and we made it into leader the first time, which we feel is a very important recognition and kind of highlights our commitment to delivering AI powered capabilities across the entire software development lifecycle. And as you can see, the only other three up there in the leader quadrant, GitHub, Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, so kind of three very, very big organizations are the only other ones who made it up there. And obviously, our GitLab Duo offering is something we're constantly developing and iterating on. And there is a roadmap of things which are to come, and changes and improvements to be made. So one of the important things is model ops. So really kind of empowering business transformation through data science. So you can benefit from integrated AI and ML model management. So you can natively store, version, deploy, track the health of these models all within GitLab. That is something which is on our roadmap. We have also got model ops. So this is everything you need to do to add AI to your applications. Just how we're adding it to GitLab, we know that customers want to add it to their software. We want to support enterprises in adding AI and ML to their applications. This functionality started off being built in 2021. And we've recently expanded this by natively supporting ML Flow and enabling AI and machine learning experimentation within GitLab. So again, it's something we're constantly kind of focusing on and iterating on. Obviously, if you've got any questions about any of these bits, feel free to ask within our chat, and we can answer those for you. Now, I think this is my last section. Transferring of the project. So what you can do, the project which you have created or been given access to, you can transfer it to your own personal GitLab group when you're done, if you'd like to. Only transfer it when you're finished playing with it, though, after the 2 days, because if you don't have an ultimate license or if you don't have Duo, you will lose some of the capabilities and all of the preset AI group settings. If you would like to transfer it, there are instructions within the workshop. So in the courses directory, there is a transfer project folder. And in that is a document which explains how you'd go about transferring that. So yeah, that brings us to the conclusion of today's workshop. What we envision here at GitLab with AI is that it will increase development velocity throughout the entire software development lifecycle, not just code suggestions. Hence our implementation across the entire kind of end-to-end platform. We always want to keep your code, your intellectual property secure. So as Sarah said in the introduction, none of the code which you use within GitLab or use GitLab Duo on is used to train models. It's not used to fine-tune models. It is kept secure. And we also, via model ops and AI ML ops, want to assist you in developing your own AI tools. And if you want to learn more about this, there's a link there to the GitLab University page around AI. So yeah, that's the end of our workshop there today, which brings us on to the final aspect, which is some live Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask them. I'm just going to open up the chat so I can see anything. Yeah, any questions, ask away.
There's one question about the AI impact dashboard and if the suggestions in the IDE are tracked as well. Let me see if I can find the documentation or anyone has it at hand, but yes, all code suggestions.
I guess, yeah, just to clarify that question, is that as in the suggestion given from the large language models back to you, is that going to be tracked in the AI impact dashboard? Is that the question, Alessandro? No.
Oh, okay. Good that you reiterated, because then I would have gotten that one wrong.
I'll Alessandro, if you could just rewrite. I know this is difficult because it's a text-based question and sometimes it's hard to get the meaning across, but if you could just rephrase that ever so slightly, then we can have another go at answering that one. What's the next question? Let's have a look. Alexander, is it possible in the future there will be a feature where Duo can follow you around and remember the previous questions from various contexts, and that would affect its answers or code suggestions? So at current, within the chat window, you can now have different chats, and the context of those chats is kind of recalled as you go from one area of the platform to the other. obviously context windows, the amount of information you can feed it is kind of tricky. It gets context from the open files within the IDE. I don't know what the plans are around the size of that context window in the future. I don't know if, Sarah, if you've got any more information around that to hand.
None that I'm aware of, but I was wondering, given that we keep the context, what would happen if you just change to a different context? If it would add the new context as well, it's probably something that we should play around with, where I can't give a definite answer how it's currently working. What we are currently working on or focusing on a lot internally is working on dual workflow. So an agentic approach to AI that is not based on the chat, but more like a reactive and active co-worker that works alongside that. You can give specific questions like, take a look at this issue and then take a look at my merge request. Is there anything missing that already has more awareness of all of that? But if you have any more ideas, context that you're missing, please make sure to raise that, because we can only learn from the feedback that we gather during those sessions. But finding the right balance between more context is what we're currently working on as well. And agentic. So those are the big topics.
Yeah, I think the agentic AI is definitely going to be the next big roadmap item for Duo. Right. So whose question is next?
I think the next one is probably Mary Lopez then. What are your concerns about AI code created by Duo, introducing bias into software created by engineers using Duo? Do you see this as a risk at all? Any thoughts, Alex? Okay, go first.
Have you got thoughts on this one?
I do, partially. I mean, but I think I do see a lot of benefits in a lot of areas, and it's a mighty tool, and that's how it should be handled. I see a lot of advantages if you use it the right way. If you use it to code along, have it. I mean, one of the main things I see, especially with like junior developers, having the option to get things explained in a way that makes sense to you, rather than rely on the things that you find on the internet, that maybe you have a question back, then you need to search that one term that the person was referring to, and then it's not in your native language. So there's a lot of things where I can help you to learn. The risk I'm seeing, or the only thing that sometimes concerns me, is I'm worried that people stop using documentation, but now that also search AIs are taking over more and more, I don't think that's an issue anymore. It used to be my main concern, because I've seen code snippets where that just didn't make sense because no one took a look at the documentation. The AI just guessed what the API might look like, and then you had false results and no one knew where that bit of code was coming from. But as AI is also improving, I see more benefits, especially for the learning aspect and enabling people, if we balance it right with security and making sure that base knowledge is also transferred. So
that's a nice balanced answer. And I think the thing with AI, or large language models at least, is that they're a tool, and that most tools can probably be used in a way which is detrimental to an organization or to an individual, and it's just about correct use of those. If you're going to use AI to generate code, copy and paste it blindly, not look over it, not understand it, then I think there's definitely risk there. But if you're going to use it in a way to explain and to educate yourself and to help with the building blocks of code and really kind of document it and understand it, then I think it has a lot of benefits. And I suppose prior to using AI and large language models, if someone didn't understand anything, they would go away and Google and use Stack Overflow, and there's no saying that there wasn't any bias or any kind of anything wrong with the code they would get from those sources either. So it's all about just I think managing tool use. Alessandra, yes, the suggestion rate is in the AI analytics dashboard. To my knowledge, it does say the acceptance rate of code suggestions, but I will just confirm that.
Let me give you, I'll send over a link with the telemetry data, and in there you can see where the suggestions are collected from. And it does include the editor and also which editor was used. And
Perfect.
other questions, things we left unturned, thoughts. Are you scared of AI?
Yes, or what would you like to see AI do in the future? Is this, do you think this is the right approach which GitLab has gone for at the moment, or is there other things you think it should do which it doesn't do yet, which I think is always valuable to hear? Yeah, it's an interesting point there about comparison with Copilot. In terms of context within the IDE, if you're using a desktop IDE, you can include specific files to make sure it's looking or it has the context of that file. I don't know, Sarah, if you've got any additions to that.
I'm currently looking up if there are some of the issues that we can share when it comes to context adding. Specifically for that one, we recently introduced the include command, which can help you at the moment to include files. This will be extended to also include merge requests, folders, dependencies, and a lot of additional tools, as well as making sure we increase the context for the chat. However, one other thing that we offer is that you can use your own models. So you can't have all of these features with a model that has been specifically trained on some of these specificities, that's a very tough word, of your code base. So if you are in an environment where you have a lot of internal libraries that you are using, where it just makes sense to have additional help with tool that has learned on these things, that's also something that you can get from Duo with self-hosted models as an addition to that. But I can't dig up the epic, but if I'll find it, I'll make sure to forward it, and then please give a thumbs up. It's always helpful for us to get the feedback if people are interested in that, so that we can prioritize accordingly.
Definitely.
All right, shall we put the feedback slide up?
Yes, yeah,
I'll dig for the issue for Alessandro.
perfect. Oh, where's it gone? I've lost my presenter view. Here we go. So yeah, but first of all, thank you all for coming and sticking to the end. Hopefully you found this useful or insightful, and you can take something from it. And you've got another, as I said, 2 days to have a mess around in the environment. And yeah, definitely make the most of that. That's not the right slide. Where's the? Oh, did we not put it in? I could have sworn there was a slide which was going to say. Oh, it's okay. When you leave the workshop, let's go back to that quickly. There will be a feedback questionnaire, and we would be very appreciative if you could just fill that out as you go, just because it helps us with these workshops. Yeah, thank you all for coming.
I guess, since everyone starts leaving. I'll take the context question with me, and
Yeah.
I enjoy
Cool.
the rest of your Tuesday.
Yes, and enjoy your presentation later.
Thank you, Alex. Bye.
Bye.